In this demonstration for Module 2, we're going to look at creating a simple query. Our steps will be to open SQL Server Management Studio, establish a connection to the server. We're going to select a database. We're going to write a simple query against that database and then execute that query. We'll look at the results. I'll give you an overview of some helpful tools. We'll save a query, then we'll open a saved query, and we'll demo some more queries just to give you a solid understanding of writing simple queries using SQL in SQL Server Management Studio. So let's begin. I'm going to start by opening SQL Server Management Studio. I'll do that by going to the Start icon, All Programs, scroll down until I find SQL Server. You may have two or more instances of SQL Server. I'm looking for the most recent one, which is 2012. Open it, and I'm looking for SQL Server Management Studio. I'll click to open. As it opens, I'll be presented with a dialog box that asks me to connect with the server. If you've set up your server correctly following the steps that in the documents that were provided in this class, you should see that you're connecting to a server type database engine, the server name, and this will be the name of your server. It could be a name similar to the one that you see here, or it could say localhost. The authentication is Windows, and I'm going to connect. I'll be presented in the Object Explorer with a pane that allows me to attach to my database. If you followed the instructions in the document on loading your databases, you've either installed them into the folder that was suggested in that document, or if you were not able to get into that folder, you stored them in another folder on your C drive. You then went through and attached the databases. So my databases are all showing, they're all attached. I will show different databases than you may, because as I'm working through the class and working in other classes and other projects, additional databases may show up on this list. I'm going to write a couple of queries using the databases that shipped with your textbook to give you some examples of a simple select statement. I'm going to start by connecting to the sales order example database. So to get to this database, the first thing I want to do is click New Query. Now, because I actually selected the database first and then click New Query, the New Query window opens and it shows that I'm connected to the sales order example database. If I had not selected that first, I could choose a database now by using the drop-down window. So I'm going to click the drop-down window and I'm going to choose AdventureWorks LT 2012, which will be a database that we'll be using often. When I click it, it's now going to show in the drop-down list. What you are going to see as you work through some examples is you're going to see something called the use command. And the use command also allows you to select a database. So it's not mentioned in our book until later on, but since you will see it, I'll show it to you here. So to create the use command, I'm going to type in use, all in uppercase. Now also as you go through the book and other examples, you're going to see that the key terms are not always in uppercase. I'm going to write them in uppercase, and for right now I'd like you to do that so that we're real clear on what those keywords are. So I'm going to say use, and then I'm going to choose the name of the database. So I'll choose sales, and you notice as I start to type, IntelliSense clicks in and it says, oh, you want to choose a database. It starts with an S, so I'm going to open the list and I'm going to take you to the S's. And so if I double click this, it's going to bring in the name of the database. Now the real advantage of using that list is that now I don't misspell the name of the database. And since this is the only command I have in my query, if I click execute, it's going to execute the query. It tells me down here that it is executed successfully, and up here I see that I'm now attached to the sales orders example database. If I wanted to switch to another database, I could do that as well with use, And I'm going to switch back to AdventureWorks. Took it a while for the IntelliSense to come up. I'll double click. Now since I have two use commands, I'm going to select the one I want to run and then execute. And now you see that I'm connected to the AdventureWorks LT 2012 database. Now I don't want to use this database right now. I can leave this in my query because I know that I can select the code that I want and run it only. I don't have to run everything that's in the query. But I'm going to go ahead and take it out so it's not confusing. I'm going to grab this one again and execute. So I'm using the sales order example database. Now on page 94 in the second edition of the book, we're asked to select the vendor name from the vendors table. So we're going to do this pretty much like it says. I'm going to select, and the row that I want is vendor name. Now if I'm not sure which field I want, I can expand the database, expand the tables, expand the table, expand the columns, locate the field that I want to use. I see what it is here and I can type it in exactly. And you notice as it's going through here, it's trying to help you, but it doesn't know the name of the table yet, so it's not going to help you find the name of the field very well. And we'll see how to fix that later on. So vend name to match what I see down here. And you see the squirrely line? The syntax checker is telling me I don't recognize this name. It doesn't recognize the name because we haven't told it yet what table that name exists in. So now I'm going to tell it from, and the name of that table will be vendors. And as it brings it up here, I can double click it in. Notice now that it recognizes the name of the field. It says, oh, I understand this field name is in this table. So I'm going to grab these two because I've already set the use. I don't need to run it again, and I'm going to execute. So down at the bottom of the screen in the results pane, I see a list of the vendors. There are 10 of them. In your textbook you see one column showing only the vendor name. In your results you're seeing another column which is a row number. So you don't need to worry about this particular column not showing in the textbook. It's just a row number. It says that I have 10 records. Down here it says I have 10 records. Query was executed successfully. What database I'm using, how long it took to run it, and we'll choose another one. And we're going to use the product price list. And let's see if we can find that. Since it has to do with products, I'm going to guess that it's in the products table. So I'm going to look there. Then I'm going to expand columns. The question is, what are the names and prices of all the products we carry? So I want the product name and the retail price. I guessed that those two fields would be in the products table. And I guessed correctly, product name and retail price. So let's go ahead and try this query. I'm going to go right below the one above. I don't need to delete it to write another one. I'm simply going to execute one query at a time by selecting it and clicking the execute. You can also press F5, and there are other shortcut keys that you can share on the discussion board with one another. So I'll begin by typing my select keyword. Select. What am I going to select? I'm going to select product name, comma, because there's two, retail price, from, and from needs to be spelled correctly too, from products. And so I'll start keying in products, and we'll see if the IntelliSense will help me here. Products. I'm going to select these two lines and execute them. Now the retail price is showing up. It's not formatted, and we'll look at something like that much later on. So don't be concerned with that now. We'll look at aliases and formatting and many other things as we move along. Right now, we're just trying to get to the basics of the select statement. How do I ask questions of the database in such a manner that I can get an answer? So I've selected, I have the product name and the retail price. And if you check in your textbook, in the second edition on page 95, it shows that you should have 40 rows. We have 40 rows. The next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at a situation where we only want to show a record one time. For example, I want a list of all the states that we serve. So those are the states in which our customers are located. And if I have customers in California, I don't want to see California, California, California. I want to see California, but only one time. So we're going to use another keyword. It's called distinct. So let's try this again. And I want to know the customer states. So I'm going to guess in here, in my sales order example, that the tables that I would be dealing with, or the fields I would be dealing with, will be in the customers table. And I'll click to open that, and I do see something in here called customer state. So I'm going to come down below my other two queries and type in select distinct. I only want to show the occurrence once. Customer state, or cust state from, and then I'm going to pull this from the customers table. I'm going to show you another little trick here. I'm going to grab the customers table and I'm going to drop it in here. Notice it looks a little different, but it will still work. So let's try this and see what we come up with. I should see the state listed only once. Now, if we want to understand if this is actually correct, let's take the distinct out of here. I'll just delete it out, and I'm going to run this again, and it's going to show me the state that's connected with every single one of my customers. So notice we're showing 4 rows now. When we take distinct out, let's see how many rows we see. I see 27, and you see I see Washington, 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 Texas. So I'm going to put the state back in here, and I used an undo to do that. If you've been working in Office, you know how to do that, and I'll execute it again. So we have an idea now, by going through a little bit of problem solving, that our results are correct. We have 27 customers, but out of those 27 customers, we have 4 unique states. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save this query to show you how to do it. So I'm going to go up to File, and if I did save, it would give the query this name, Save SQL Query 2. That's not a very meaningful name. So I'm going to do a Save As. And it's going to try to put it back into the place where I opened the application. So you can choose another folder, and I'm going to put this on my, I have a Google Drive that I use. I'm going to put it in my Google Drive. I'm going to put it in my BTS or my BizIT 103 folder. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it Solutions. And in this one, I'm going to call this query Module 2 Demo. And I'll save it. And now I'm going to go ahead and close the query. Now if I want that query back again, I have a couple of options. I can go to File, Open, and this is a file. I'm going to say File, and then I'm going to browse out to where I put that query, and I'm going to open it. And if I want to run these again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click Execute. And let's see what happens when I execute all of these. Notice all 3 of my queries ran, and they're down at the bottom. Sometimes that may make sense, sometimes it won't. But I just want you to see that unless you're doing something that contradicts something else that you did, just clicking Execute is really not going to be a problem, but you need to pay attention. So now I'm going to go ahead and just close this query again. Let's take a look at one of the problems for you to solve at the end of Chapter 4. Number 1 asks, show me all the information on our employees. So what we need to do is first make sure that we're attached to the correct database. and we are attached to sales order example. I click new query to open up a new query window, and what I want to know is all the information about the employees. So I'm going to select all. The asterisk is all from employees. Remember the drag and drop from earlier in the demo? And I'm going to execute. And we have 8 employees, and we're showing all the information on each of those employees. We would know that by going into the employees table and looking at the columns, and you see that we have the columns for the employee ID, first name, last name, street address, city, state, zip code, area code, phone number, and that's what we see in our results set. Now we're going to take a look at the simple query demo that's been provided for you. I'm going to go ahead and close the query screen. I'm not going to save it. You can save it if you like. And I'm going to open a file, and I have to find the file, and it is a simple query demo, and I'll open it. And in the demo it tells us which database to use. I need to either write the use statement or select AdventureWorks LT 2012. And walking through this, first we say we want to list all data for all customers in the database. So we have our select statement from sales LT customer. Now I'm going to rewrite this just to show you again how to do it. You notice that this demo, is created in lowercase, and the select statement and the from statement are both on the same line. I'm going to rewrite it so they're on separate lines. Select all from customers. Now I need to go up and find my tables, and I want to find customer, and I'll drag it in. Need to make sure I have a space there, and I need to be sure and select this and execute it, because there are many select statements in this query. And we have 407 rows. Now if you are executing this query in one of our computer labs, you may find that the customer table has more rows, and there are a bunch of duplicates in it. Every customer with a customer ID of 701 and less could be deleted. Now in our lab environment, don't delete those records, because our databases are shared with other classes. So we don't want to be deleting those records. In the databases that were provided for you through this class, those records have already been deleted from your table. Let's take a look at the next one here. It operates the same way. Select all from the sales LT product. So if I grab it and execute it, we have 295 products. Now we're going to take a look at this one, and I'm going to rewrite it to give you another idea on how to use some of the tools in SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm going to type in select, and now these are all coming from the product table. I'm going to open the product table, open columns. I'm going to find product ID, and I'm going to drag and drop that in. Comma, name, drag and drop it in, comma, and our last one is list price. Drag and drop that one in. Go to the next line, and from sales product, and from sales LT product. And I'll press enter to move to a new line. Now I'm going to select these one at a time, so you see that there really is no difference between them. It's just simply a matter of how they were written. This one was done with drag and drop. So grab it and execute it. We have 295 rows and 3 columns. And that's product ID, name, and list price, which matches with product ID, name, and list price. Now I'll grab this one and run it as well. You see, there's no difference in the output set. They were just simply written in a different way. Now what you need to do is continue to work through these queries. Rewrite them, try the drag and drop, run them the way that they were created here, then run them the way that you created them. Make sure that the output that you're getting in each one is what you expect, that you're getting no error messages. If you're getting an error message, be sure and read the error message. And I'm going to give you an example of an error message that you might see. I'm going to go ahead and select, but what's going to happen here when I select it, I'm going to accidentally miss one of the letters when I select it, and I'll execute. And you can see that it can't find the sales LT produce because it's misspelled. So when you see something like that, check to see how you selected it, grab it again, and execute. And if you have any questions, be sure and post your questions to the appropriate discussion board. Share them with your classmates. The best way to learn how to do something is to tell somebody how to do it. So if you see questions on the discussion board that you're confident that you can answer, go ahead and try. When I check in and read the questions and read the answers, if you're on the wrong track, I'll make sure that I point you back in the right direction. Certainly I'm not going to punish you for trying to answer a question even if you do it incorrectly. I really applaud the effort that's put in to try to answer questions. If the question is answered correctly, I'll likely say good job or thank you for doing that.